Welcome to the Scam Economy with your host, Matt Bender.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Scam Economy post show for episode 4. Ooh, I feel like I'm doing the old Four Horsemen hand gesture here. Woo! 4 Horsemen, baby. Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard. All right, let's. I guess I could get into wrestling mode if I wanted to. Let me turn my mic volume up. I don't know why I was so low. But I was screaming, so maybe you didn't even notice. All right, everybody, welcome to the post show. I hope you all enjoyed episode 4. Focus was on the crypto Super Bowl ads and how they were just perpetuating what is the scam economy in various different ways. And, you know, I'm looking forward to talking to you all tonight. Let me open up the phone lines. As you know, you can call in on Skype. Just download the Skype app, search for the username Doomed Live. I guess I will eventually make, a call-in number just for this show, because Doomed Live is the call-in number for my other show, Doomed. But for now, just search Doomed Live on Skype. I'll take your calls. Before we do that, super chats as well. YouTube.com/Matt Binder. I'll read your super chats. Let's see. Let me thank the patrons who joined my Patreon page at patreon.com/Matt Binder since the last episode. Let's go. Let's see where we are at here. Okay. Charles T, David L, Connor V, Pepper, Alexis A, Alexis A, Brian A, Andrew R, and John B. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons over this past week. As always, patreon.com/Matt Binder to support this show. I literally cannot do this show without you guys. I would love to do more episodes, being a little bit more funded so I can turn down other things and just focus on this is very helpful in making that a reality. But, you know, if you can't, totally get it. This is only for people who have the disposable income. You know, instead of investing in the latest shitcoin, invest in this Patreon, excuse me. Jeez. Again, this isn't an investment, though. This is a product. The transaction ends when you send me the money and I go live on a show, a live stream or a podcast. All right, let's see. There's some people in the chat saying, let's see. Oh, Bob says, great episode, Matt. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. My dad says this episode was more entertaining than the Super Bowl. There we go. He also said it's ads and the halftime show. And all that in 40 minutes. I don't want to start a whole thing with the halftime show. So let's go on. Let's see what else. Call says, put Binder on the ledger. Please, let me go right on the blockchain. Turn me into an NFT, baby. Let's see. All right, I get to... All right, so if you didn't notice on the Andy's commenting on it now, people realize that the episode that just aired, episode 4, there were a lot of cuts. So because it was the first solo Scam Economy episode, where basically I was just doing the show by myself, no guest, I tried out this new program I recently came across called TimeBolt. And what it does is it basically, you record your video, you record your audio, you drop it into TimeBolt, it scans the footage, it scans the audio, and it basically removes all the dead air and all your breaths. Basically, it searches for sounds under a certain decibel and it cuts them out. The cool thing is, a lot of times when during a live stream, it's good for a live stream. Live stream, you're watching someone. I think it's totally cool to see someone like stop and think and process. But for a podcast, and and honestly, this happens on Doom sometimes, where for the live stream it works, but on the podcast, it doesn't really translate sometimes when it's a long solo show or a conversation like that, where there's pauses and time to think. So I decided to try this program out, and it cut out all my breaths, and it cut out all the dead air, and so it gives you a lot of jump cuts. But for audio purposes, for like a podcast, it works out great. And I think it translated for a solo live stream too. For like a solo YouTube video, it works. I would not use it with a guest. It would be too weird. The jumping between two people and everything. But for a solo show, I think it totally works. And a lot of YouTubers make their own regular constant jump cuts too. Oh, got a call. Let me take it. Oh, you got to turn your audio down a little bit. Sorry. Hey. Oh, perfect. Yes, I can hear you. Good. How are you? Whoa, I'm hearing two people at the same time. There might be two people on the line. Hold on. That would be a glitch with with Skype. Let me do this. Let me hang up. I don't know who I'm going to hang up on. If one of you are still on the line, I will take whoever's still on the line. And if you both get hung up on, whoever calls me back first, I'll take. Sorry about that. This is a Skype glitch, it seems like. Very weird. I'm hanging up. I'll take both of your calls, but I'm not sure what order it'll be in. Just give me a second.
Hello?
Hello? Who's on the air right now?
Hi, call me Rick. I'm from Portland, Oregon, not originally American. But I'd like to call in and talk a little bit about what the Bitcoin subreddit starts to trend towards.
Hold on. I just want to say, first of all, the listener who called in, who I hung up on, I will immediately take your call right after this one. I could not control. Really weird. I pressed one call acceptance, and both of you somehow got on the line. But anyway, you said your name's Rick, right?
Right.
All right. Thanks for calling, Rick. So what would you like to talk about?
Oh, so I'm pretty active on the Bitcoin subreddit because I hold some crypto, and I'm also a pretty big fan of yours and the Majority Report. And so I kind of have a view that doesn't align with specifically my actions, let's say.
Sure. Go ahead. Explain more what you mean by that.
So I am of the belief that if Bitcoin succeeds, because it can, we are trended towards a pretty awful world. And the reason I hold Bitcoin, it's more a hedge against a bad future than anything. So either my holdings become astronomically large and I can survive whatever nightmare we end up in, or they go to practically zero and all is fine and dandy.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, listen, I want to make it clear. I want to make it super clear. And I feel like I'm going to be like one of those crypto guys saying this. But nothing on this show is, nothing on this show is financial advice. There, I said it. Just like those crypto guys. I'm just telling people my opinion on this shit, why I think I'm right. And, you do with that what you will. I'm not going to tell someone that they're a bad person or they shouldn't do something in this world. It's not for me to judge. I say this all the time. If you're one of those people who are simply in it because you struck the lottery and you know that this is all that it's good for, and you're not viewing this in some way that it's going to affect other people in terms of you're advocating that it takes over whatever, and that you're some sort of person who thinks that everyone's wallet should be attached to their identity and the internet should all be commodified and everything really should be commodified, then I don't care. Like the same thing as like people who make a living playing poker or betting on the NBA or NFL or whatever. People do what they got to do. It's to me the same as like, you got to work a shitty job at some mega corporation that sucks ass too. I get it. And I think you're saying that you're sort of doing the same, but your reasoning is just like you're hedging your bets, I guess. Like you're not for it, but you're putting a little bit in just in case.
I think historically, I thought this would be, because people, like, if you look at like its origins, it wasn't really meant to be what it is now, or at least not very early on. And I'm kind of a technology guy. I got into it relatively early, at least compared to what it looks like today. And I don't like the way it's headed. So it's not really, for me, it's kind of also a moral bind. Like, should I divest now, or do I want to hedge against the Peter Thiel's winning? Another thing.
I think that's Peter Thiel's going to win. I hate to tell you, no matter what your crypto investment is, and no matter how much you stand to make, if this shit actually, like, if tomorrow all of a sudden Chase, Capital One, TD Bank, Bank of America, every major bank says we're doing crypto, and Joe Biden says Bitcoin is the official currency of the United States, and every dream a crypto guy bro ever had comes true, Peter Thiel's winning. I hate to tell you, even if you're well off, Peter Thiel still got more than you.
Yeah, no, that's not really what I'm saying. I'm afraid of that future, and I don't want that future. I don't want to have nothing in that future. And kind of more, it's maybe a selfish and dystopian view, but it's really just like making sure I'm taken care of if like that nightmare scenario takes place, kind of like what a doomsday prepper would do, I guess, but in the digital nightmare that we might be headed towards.
Right.
Another thing I want to quickly point out is that on the current Bitcoin subreddit, there's kind of a divide between people who are libertarian and people who are not that. And I think currently people are waking up to who's pushing Bitcoin. There was a post on the Bitcoin subreddit that like Jordan Peterson would speak at the Bitcoin conference, and he got more hate than love by the subreddit, let's say, and quite a bit more.
Right. I'm sure there's a swath of people in this now. I think in the first episode of this show with David Gerard, we went over how there is, like, obviously in the early days it was heavily ideological, Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. And over the years, especially in the past few years, when it sort of got big in the mainstream, it became just more of a VC type thing where people just wanted to get rich off of it. There was nothing ideological. I would say there is an ideology behind that. It's not the same as the, I guess, more moralistic in their own viewpoint. For the libertarians I'm talking about. But sure, it doesn't surprise me that there are people who would get angry that what they're basically hedging their bets on for future riches would be going towards one specific political ideology, because I bet they look at that like, the same way Michael Jordan said, I don't want to get into politics because, and this is not verbatim, but he said something like this, that he doesn't get into politics because both sides of the aisle buy his jersey and his shoes. That's the same aspect I am sure a lot of crypto people come at it from. I don't want Bernie Sanders coming out for this. I don't want Rand Paul coming out for this. I want just everyone to get in on this. I don't want it to go one way or the other because then we're losing a swath of people to buy in.
Yeah, I get that. They do have Ted Cruz speaking at the conference too, which is completely.
So there goes. I mean, who else is speaking at this conference? I would highly doubt there's anyone who you'd consider on the left speaking at this thing.
There are no left. No, there are no left voices speaking at that. I've also most of the people I speak to or I know in that space are definitely not leftists. I probably am on track of maybe losing a very close friend to that space because they were like, "Hey, you got to read this book," and then the book he recommended was like The Sovereign Individual. It was not a good book. It was really awful. Anyway, don't ever put yourself through reading that garbage.
I mean, it's probably it's probably some like it sounds like some sort of libertarian-esque, like I don't know, like a Jordan Peterson self-help type book, or like a Tim Robbins.
It's like a 90s. It's like a 90s book in which they quote unquote prophesized Bitcoin, but it's so cryptically described.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, okay. Go ahead though. I know what you're talking about now. Yes, go ahead.
So a lot of believers think that this book was like the prophecy. So now all the prophecies in this book are about to come out. It's just a book of people who said, "Wait, I made this like very vague prophecy, and now in the 90s, 5 years after I made this vague prophecy, something that kind of matches that prophecy came true. Ergo, I know what's going to happen." And there's just those two guys who make the shit up, and it's just completely culty.
I was about to say, you know what that
really
sounds like?
Nightmarish.
It sounds like a cult. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I mean, come on now, really. This is something that you're like it's so weird. Like this sounds like something straight out of like, you know, Q also said arrests were coming. I mean,
yeah,
and
similar to that.
QAnon believers jump right on anything that is happening in the news that, oh, this is it. Get your popcorn ready. This is the big moment. And even though it never actually peters out the way they think it's going to.
I think the only difference here is that because most of the people in this space are already invested, so they're very reliable on this succeeding. And so if this succeeds, they want to, so to make this succeed and to feel good about themselves, they want to buy into this. It's kind of like a church, but there's an extra incentive to make sure that you're very culty and making sure that more people join your cult. It is like a Scientology cult where you're like one of the high up, whatever level who get money is like gathering more people. So like you said in a couple of episodes ago, it is a Ponzi scheme, but it's not just that. It's much more than that.
Right. I mean, well, they don't know that. I mean, they don't know they're in the Ponzi. I mean, we see this with all Ponzi's, though. I mean, I hate to keep bringing this up, but I mean, I think for what I'm trying to do here, and I think a lot of people have seen this documentary because it just came out over the past year, and I think it's a good. It's not an exact analogy, but I think it's a good way for people outside this space to understand. I mean, if you watch that LuLaRoe documentary, I mean, it was like a religion for some of these people. Selling this line of like women's tights became a religion for these people. Their very being became enamored in this, and that's just all they were. Their families got in on it, and then like you had like couples just like 24/7 pushing LuLaRoe, and the people at the top of the Ponzi, the couple that started the whole thing, were again pushing it like a religion, bringing God into it, making it very religious, which then in turn made those people who they were bringing into the scam also feel like they were doing something for a higher power, and making them feel like they were doing something more than just selling women's clothing, or even worse, doing more than just selling their friends the opportunity to also sell women's clothing. I mean, it's really, you see this throughout all these sort of schemes, and of course, they don't know that they're in a Ponzi, because that if they did, then it wouldn't work for the people at the very top of the pyramid.
Yeah, that's true. Quickly, two more things. I'm a huge fan. I'm really glad to talk to you. I've been meaning to call in for the last probably half year.
Oh, cool.
And one more thing, I created a subreddit, our scam economy, for anybody who wants to join or wants to moderate or even wants ownership, because I don't need to own this subreddit, but I didn't want it to go to a random person. If anybody wants to join, or anybody that you might know that wants to moderate this subreddit, shoot them my way. My subreddit handle is Ojeda for president, all of one word. And that's everything I had to say. Good to talk to you.
Can you in the Skype chat send me the Reddit username so I could DM you? That's a good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can't believe I dropped the ball there. Thank you for grabbing that. Perfect. There probably is. I mean, I've come across them, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. There's probably a number of subreddits that are anti-crypto, but maybe it's maybe we could make something of it. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Thanks for calling in, and feel free to call in anytime. Thanks for the chat. It was great.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
And before you jump, actually, Infinite Content shot me a super chat saying, "Matt, your guest's friend is about to get him jammed up for tax evasion on some sovereign citizen nonsense. So just beware."
Okay.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Let me let that other person know they can call in now. And of course, you can call in on Skype at Doomed Live, and we can chat. We can discuss. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Let's do it. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, man, it's Josh from Tucson.
Hey, Josh. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, I just want to kind of discuss some of the other fuck ups we've done as far as security.
Sure.
So, for instance, Social Security numbers. Originally, Social Security was, designed to give out money. You give into the system, you get back from the system, right?
Right.
But over time, Social Security numbers has turned into a really big, here's how your credit is rated, right?
Okay.
And Social Security numbers are kind of like a Bitcoin wallet, if you think about it.
Okay, continue. Let's see where you're going with this.
But how many people get scammed every year just because someone knows your Social Security number?
Okay.
It happens way more often than you think it does. And
what is the scam there though? You mean
identity theft?
You mean someone who doesn't have a Social Security number using your Social Security number so they can work? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Like criminals will use your Social Security number and apply for credit, use your credit, and do lots of nefarious deeds using just your Social Security number and your, they need to know a little more than just your Social Security number, but
right.
But you get what I'm saying is it's pretty easy for someone to use it's just a number, right? There's no security wrapped around it other than some of your personal information and a number. We should have secured this number quite a bit more once we started using it for other things other than Social Security.
Oh, I can agree with you there that it is ridiculous that we use our Social Security number for a variety of ways to basically confirm our identity. I mean, it's just one thing to confirm your identity. No, I can't think of anything that just takes your social security number that doesn't also require other forms of identification to match it up with. But yes, I agree with you there that we should not, the social security number was not meant to be used, in my opinion, for basically confirming your identity everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But to tie it all in, but what I'm saying is using a Bitcoin wallet to secure your identity is kind of the same thing, right?
How so?
Well, I'm just saying that you can get scammed pretty easily with just your social security number. So we wouldn't want to associate ourselves with just a freaking Bitcoin wallet. Like, these are things that we should think about in a security method, in a security environment, where we don't want nefarious people out there just being able to grab a link for your video's thought process to just steal their identity. You know, it's
Right,
kind
right.
of the
No,
same
I see,
one-to-one.
I see the point you're making. I mean, I do think it's a little bit different. I don't think it's an exact because, you know, no one can hop into your bank account just with a social security number.
That is true.
Whereas with your Bitcoin
Takes a little
wallet
bit more.
address, there are various, well, any crypto wallet address really. I mean, we see it all the time happening in Discord where someone offers customer service help, purports to be from some NFT project or a new cryptocurrency that just dropped, a new meme coin. And simply with the wallet address and clicking a link, or even I think receiving something, in some ways, they can steal your shit. Like just with the crypto, like people can probably mess with you in a variety of ways with your social security number, with paired with other forms of identification, in terms of like maybe somehow taking out a loan in your name. But that loan isn't coming out of your bank account. You know what I mean? Like you can contact and say this was taken out fraudulently, but like they're not lifting the money out of your bank account. Like it's not your money that they're stealing when they do some sort of scam with your social security number. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas
That's true.
the
I agree, but
Bitcoin wallet, I mean, it's still a pain in the ass, but obviously it's also you get something fraudulent happens via your bank account or some loan taken out in your name. You're not on the hook. Something happens to your crypto via your wallet, getting scammed, that shit's gone and it's not coming back.
yeah, I agree with you. But the one thing I would say is when your credit gets fucked, like that ruins you for a lifetime. Whereas, you know, you just lose a couple of bucks and maybe a bank will pay you back. But if someone messes up your credit, you can get screwed for life. You know,
I will say that I'll give you a personal issue here, and obviously it's different for everybody, but I did have something happen recently with a credit card of mine. And it was an error on, it was not an error on my end. I immediately called the bank. I explained to them what happened. I told them how it affected my credit score. It knocked it down very much in a short amount of time, and how this was solely because of this one issue. And within a week or two, my credit score was back to where it was prior to this incident. They immediately contacted the credit union, the credit unions, and the credit, like Experian and Equifax and
Equifax,
yeah, and the issue is fixed. I mean, obviously, it probably depended on how big the issue is. This was a very small thing that happened, but it affected my credit nonetheless. Maybe it's different, but they're you know, you stay on it and it can be fixed. Again, there's no repercussions when it comes to crypto hacks. It's gone. It's gone. But in your point of we shouldn't be using social security numbers for identity verification outside of social security, and using that as an analogy to Bitcoin wallets and what we should use that for, or crypto wallets in general, I completely agree. We are not meant to be tied to these numbers specifically for a certain thing. I mean, it's just ridiculous to identify anyone by their credit or their financial situation or any of this stuff. It's just bizarre. It's just and this from the security angle, I totally am on board with you there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and last point I want to make real quick is the make it rain graphic at the end of the video there. It was perfect. It was on point.
Oh, thank you.
Very beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Take care. Thanks for the call, and feel free to call back in anytime.
Hey, have a good one.
Bye. Ooh, that call could have gone a different direction, and I'm glad it didn't because I thought he made a great point. I did see some people in the I don't want to miss calls, so let me take the calls first, and I'll get to what I saw in the chat. Excuse me. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt, it's Tony from Texas. How are you?
Hey, Tony, I'm pulling you up on the video feed unless you, okay,
Go
cool. I
for
was about
it.
to say, unless you, speak now or forever hold your peace.
No, I went and put my face on so I could turn on my camera. So
There we go.
So I'll keep it short today. But a thought occurred to me during the show and kind of like kept kicking around in my head during that first caller that schemes like all of this crypto nonsense, that the core point of it may very well be lots of people losing their savings. Like a lot, it's not so much gaining money from other people as it is causing as people, especially lower income, lower means people, to lose however they can on these kinds of grifts. Because when you've got multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire kind of money, you already have more money than like generations could spend. The way that you like really glom more power up at that point is making sure that other people have less economic and political power. So these apps and companies and stuff blowing all of this money on advertising just to kind of like get that on some people's mouths, try to get them hooked and reeled in. It may very well. I mean, a lot of these operations may very run at a huge loss in terms of like capital gain back or what have you, but come at a huge gain by making life more precarious for a lot of other people and making them more susceptible to the whims of companies who are doling out the pitiful wages.
Right.
So that's my thought.
Right. No, that's a great thought. I mean, it's like, why would any of these people care if you or I or any of you listening to this made money? Why would they care? It's like, think about what their angle is. Like, just if you're someone who is interested in this stuff and doesn't agree with the critiques here, just stop for a second and think, what do those other people stand to gain from this? No one is like, you think the VCs throwing down all these millions of dollars into these Web3 tech companies and startups are thinking about how could the little man and the little people, how can they rise up in the system and finally get a piece of theirs? No, they look at you as, another way to extract some money out of someone. Like, that's that's what they're doing here. I mean, that's all this is. And that's all what any business is, really, in terms of like, but again, and I constantly feel like I'm making this point, and I'm probably gonna make this point all the time, but it is the truth. You know what that is when you're going to McDonald's or any other place where you're getting, it doesn't even have to be physical. You know what that is when you pay for your Spotify monthly subscription. You know that Spotify's making money off of you, and in return, they're giving you their exclusive podcast like Joe Rogan or the free access, not free, but free reign over the library of music they have, I should say.
Right.
And that's, I mean, you at least know that. You don't hear crypto people talking about that. Like, they legit think like, oh, like this stuff is gonna make us rich, and why wouldn't it? It's for our best interest. I mean, why? Why do you think these people are putting so much behind this system? It's not for you, buddy. It's not.
Yeah, it isn't. And that point bears repeating. So anytime, by all means, say it again, and say it with your chest. It's true. It is more palatable to have somebody like spit in your face than stab you in the back. Companies that are a little upfront about their transactionalness, at least you can respect that they're being upfront about their transactional nature versus, companies that try to sell you on, oh, I'm just looking out for your best interest. I'm trying to do what's best for you, not what's best for my wallet, not what's best for my pocket, for your pocketbook, for your wallet. That's what I'm here for. That's bullshit.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for taking my call, Matt. You have a great show.
Thanks for the call. Have a great night. Let's see. The Feeling Studio in the YouTube chat says, your page fucking sucks. Proud capitalist here. You're a loser. Fucking loser. Keep masturbating to Stalin and Mao. You should call in. I mean, you should call in. Open up your Skype app. And search username Doomed Live. And you should discuss with me whatever your view here is. I mean, if you're simply going to call in to talk about my masturbatory practices to Stalin and Mao, then I think that conversation might get a little bit repetitive and boring. But we could talk about that if you'd like. We got a call here. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
What's up, man? It's Omega.
Hey, Omega. Oh, you're on the video for the first time. You want me to pull you up on the feed?
Yes.
Cool.
All right ahead, yeah.
There we go. Hey, Omega. What would you like to talk about?
What's up? No, Chad, I'm not his long-lost brother, okay? The Beard Brothers here. But, no, I wanted to ask a question because I don't know personally, and I have, like, some coworkers and, like, sadly, some in-laws that are into this stuff. What is the situation in terms of taxing with some people? Because I know that one guy I know, he has to wait a little bit longer in order to file his taxes because he does crypto and like Acorn stuff with the stocks and whatnot. Like, would you get taxed for like if say the crypto went or stocks went like to super high value? Would you get taxed for like the peak value of that year, or would you get would you get taxed on like should you have taken money out of it or whatever you paid for it or whatever?
Well, I'm not
invested.
I do know that crypto profit is taxed the same as like your profit from like investing in the stock market, other securities. That's how it's looked at in this country. But I'm not a tax specialist. I believe you actually would not be taxed on that unless you actually sold. Like, it doesn't matter what its value is at right now. I don't believe you get taxed on the amount if you have not sold and earned a profit. Like, if your investment is just in Bitcoin or whatever and you haven't touched it, I don't believe you get taxed on that. I mean, you get just if you get taxed on your earnings, like the money that you made to put into it, but you don't get taxed on.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, whatever Bitcoin's at right now, because it's not profit yet. It's not, you haven't made shit until you actually sell, and you haven't lost shit till you actually sell. To be fair, as well. That's my understanding there. Half of it I told you I'm sure about. The other half I'm pretty sure about.
Yeah, because like, and also people who like say go through like certain systems of like say what do you call it, when, because I know when people go through like things like subsidized housing or like or rent control, whatever things like that, they do have to kind of say if like they have dealings with that, or like because they definitely take a look at like people's assets and whatnot. So I don't know if like that's something that gets counted with that too. And then there's like, oh, okay, you pay more because X, Y, and Z, and you have this much invested in this or whatever, but you haven't taken any money out of it or whatever the fuck, and that whole thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's someone in the chat says that crypto interest is taxed as earned income. Another person says, Dr. Paxmore says, Soap 1000 said what I previously read, and Dr. Paxmore says, you are correct, Matt. The SEC is introducing those rules in 2024 regarding, I guess, it being as security. Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's. I'm sure you can try very hard to fudge those numbers, and I'm positive. I mean, we know actually that crypto is used to launder money, specifically, obviously, to also avoid taxes. But I mean, it's apparently confusing enough for people who have invested that there is a whole swath I saw of like accountants and like tax people specifically reaching out to like the crypto market because they view it as an opportunity to bring in a shit ton of business from people who have no idea what the fuck to do with what they've earned through this.
Yeah, I'm still miffed to like after last week though, when you guys got into that story about that one lady, and like I can't believe that goofball just made off with so much. Like I'm still miffed at that part. I guess it's like one of those things like it's like when some people are like a certain way outside of a certain field, but then they're freaking Rain Man when they get into certain things, and it's all of a sudden they're like a fucking super genius. Something like that. I can never understand it, but it kind of speaks to the volatility of all this stuff, because it's like I did tell somebody earlier this week that like that the reason why like I'm not too big on stocks, but the reason why I would say stocks is way more of an investment and viable is because, well, the money is being pumped in because the business is actually prospering in some way, shape, or form. For the most part, that's how stocks like, grow and whatnot. And then, but except for, when people do all the other sketchy shit, like the buybacks and stuff. But then with crypto, I mean, the only people pumping money into it.
Oh, wait, hold on. I got to cut you off here. I was wrong. And this is interesting and surely to piss off the, I'm sure, both sides of the cryptocurrency people, the people who want it to be a currency and people who want it to be a legitimate investment vehicle. The IRS classifies cryptocurrency as property. And cryptocurrency transactions are taxable by law, just like transactions related to other property. Taxes are due when you sell, trade, or dispose of cryptocurrency in any way and recognize a gain. Buying crypto on its own isn't a taxable event. Very interesting.
I wonder if there's like, because I've heard of some people who like, so you know how Cash App has like the giveaway stuff sometimes on Twitter and whatnot. Yeah, sometimes when they do those giveaways, it's mainly crypto, and then they get crypto or whatever. But then it's like, I wonder if some of that gets factored in. If say they were just rejected and they never own it in the first place.
Right.
Oh, I would assume not, probably, because it's like you never accepted it, so therefore it never came into your possession, and it only would come into your possession if should you choose to accept it.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I honestly, what I do think will be funny is that obviously the this is a little bit off topic. Well, not so much, but I'm going on a tangent here. The NFT promoters who buy their own NFTs, like a wash trade, in order to pump up the value of it, so people think, oh, this NFT just legitimately sold for a certain price, $200,000. That means all the NFTs in that project are worth $200,000. those people who bought their own who bought their own NFTs are going to find it fun when they have to pay the taxes on that transaction, because that's what that is. They're going to have to, like, that's not a not a freebie. They don't get to just buy their own NFT and not have to pay the tax on it.
Considering the amount of crypto you probably have to sink into it equal to that value and whatnot, and then you'd have to like calculate all that crap. But it's like, yeah, that's the karma of it. You're just trying to artificially inflate it, and then you're like, well, do that, and then it's like, yeah, you're not in no Board Ape yacht club. It's like nobody's willing to buy you and stuff like that. And now you just did that for nothing, because I bet somebody. Because I don't know if like it leaves kind of a trail or something like that of some sort, but I guess there's probably going to be some means someday of somebody seeing if it changes hands enough, and if they realize it only changed hands back to you over and over, they're probably going to feel like, oh, ... oh my God, no, now I got to pay this much in back tax, and I'm getting raked over the coals with this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this isn't my area of expertise in terms of taxes and how it's. I'm gonna definitely have someone on to discuss, because I think that's a whole new. I'm sure there's a lot of shady shit going on in that area. But thanks for the call. Definitely brought up some good points. Yeah.
One last question.
Sure.
Do you think Cody Rhodes actually left AEW? You think it's just a work?
No, it's not a work. I definitely think he left AEW.
I don't know. I have my doubts. But anyways, we'll see later.
Yeah, take care. Always love the wrestling callers. So thanks for that. Maybe the next show is I create as a pro wrestling show. I need more time in terms of like not more time to put it together, but more time in a day or a week in perpetuity to be able to handle that all. But yeah. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, you're on the air. You have to turn down your stream. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York City. Holy shit. Hold on. There we go.
Oh, you're walking the streets of Manhattan or Brooklyn, or I can't tell.
Actually, I was Brooklyn.
I was about to say you don't have to tell me, but let me put you up on the screen.
I was at a coffee/bar and I was listening to your stream. Like, good stream, bro. Like, I heard the pre-recorded stuff. So, but since I'm gonna be in and out, I just want to talk really, really fast and like just bring up the topic about DAOs.
Sure, really quick though, because your audio is not. I mean, obviously you're outside of a bar, so I'm not expecting anything better. But your audio is not the best. So if you could do it like really quick.
So I heard about this recent DAO that I'm not sure what they were gonna buy necessarily, but then like the thing about the DAO is that they got so. Someone, the way how DAOs work, they're basically decentralized. So like almost everyone has voting rights necessarily, and it's kind of weird.
It's a co-op. It's a co-op.
Yeah,
it's crypto bros thinking they invented the idea of a co-op.
Even though like even a centralized system will work better also, since you won't have anyone with uneven power in it, since they could accumulate power by like just buying their way into it like with a huge amount of money. So I forgot the name of the DAO, but then like someone wanted to vote something in the DAO. They were like, and then the DAO voted it down in Discord. But then they basically made another account or so, and then brought up the same vote, and it went through without fail, and they gained all the power in the DAO, accumulated all the money on their side, and fucking like basically put out the DAO out of business.
Hell yeah!
I wanted to bring that topic in.
Code is law, baby. That's how it works. Once it's done, it's done. It was meant to be. That's it. The judge, jury, and executioner right there.
Yeah. So that DAO was dead, and I just basically wanted to bring that topic up to play. You could hang up on me right now because like
I have to look into. I think I might have come across that. You have someone outside is playing like I hear jazz music in the background, like trumpet or trombone. I love it. Go enjoy. People who like listen to podcasts or like read a book at a bar are always amazing to me. I could never do it. I have such horrible attention span, but power to you for being able to do it. And I can't complain. You were listening to this show. So take care. Have a good night. Always appreciate when you call in, buddy. Take care.
All right, peace.
Bye. I almost should have kept it on just to hear the music in the background. The Feeling Studio, you can just open up Skype. You have to download Skype. Search Doomed Live. My username will show up, Doomed Live, and call it. I'll take it. There's no like screener to make sure you're not going to give me any tough questions or anything like that. I take any and all calls. Obviously, if you're just going to call and be a dick, and not even, if you're just calling to be a troll, I'll probably humor you for a bit because that's how I am. But, I will eventually have to hang up on you when it's no longer entertaining. But I accept any and all callers. Let's see. I saw someone before say this is where I thought that previous caller was going when he brought up the Social Security numbers. Someone in the chat said Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. And I mean, it's not. It's not. It's a government mandated insurance program. It's that's how you could look at it, or it's a welfare program. I mean, every adult in the United States eligible, and they are taxed, and money from their income is put into the Social Security. I got a call right now. Let me take the call and then I'll get back into this. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt.
Hey.
Hey, it's Zach.
Hey,
I'm
Zach.
East Tennessee. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Can you hear me okay? This is my first time on Skype.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay. So one of the things that I was kind of curious, a point that you had made over and over again, and I agree, is the commodification of everything.
Right.
Hobbies and video games. And I'm into, not by choice, but I'm a record collector.
Okay.
And like I picked this out. I'm not on camera right now, but I'm holding in my hand. I know you're a punk fan, so I've got a Rancid 45.
Nice.
That
How Come the Wolves?
It's got no, it's got on side A, it's got Hooligans, and then Cash Culture and Violence, and then on side B, it's Things to Come. This is from 1998. What I'm getting at is like collecting records has turned into a business, whether you want it to be or not, and it falls under that commodification of everything. Right now, you can't buy records. You can't. I mean, you can, but they're hard to get a hold of. The value of just new release records have gone up probably 30 or 40%, and it's made the hobby kind of a drag. And I don't know if I have an overarching point, but it's kind of like it makes me nervous. If I tried to see, I've been collecting records for about 10 years. I'm 43, and I started back in 2013. If I tried to gather the collection I have right now, which is about 3,000 or 4,000 records, at today's prices, I could not do it.
Right.
And it's because it's been turned into a business by speculators and just people trying to milk every dollar out of every piece of culture that we have. And I don't know if that's part of late stage capitalism, whichever thought I'd be saying. I'm a huge fan of yours and the Majority Reports and Sam's, and I love what you guys do. And I was actually a big Hillary supporter, but I mean, you guys have me talking about like late stage capitalism and like extracting value. Are we at that stage where kind of there is no more fun to be had and everything?
Well, first of all, great to hear that. That's very great. That's very cool. Very great. I know I voted for Hillary in the general election. I obviously was a Bernie primary supporter, but eventually, had to do what you got to do to make sure that the least harm is done. As that's how I vote.
Right.
I'm a strategic voter. Voting is not an emotional thing for me. I don't share my feelings when I vote in the voting booth. I do what I got to do. That makes sense from a strategic standpoint. Although I get people who feel otherwise. I'm not someone who, knocks other people who vote for the reasons they vote for. But to your point about the commodification of everything, with crypto, I think it's with Web3 and NFTs. I think it's a lot different. For example, that Rancid 45 you have. I'm assuming that's not the only copy in existence.
No, it's not extremely rare, but it has been. These things are getting sucked up to people that don't listen to this stuff. I mean, they just buy it and hold it.
Right.
For value store.
Right. But I mean, that's also not the only purpose of that item. Like you said, like they might view it as that, but there are other people who actually do use it. So, it's the same thing, I guess you can say when you're, even in like the resale market for like PlayStation 5s. There are people out there buying them because they want it and to play it and to enjoy it. And there's people out there buying it to resell. And
I do resell records. I mean, I do sell records, by the way.
Sometimes you sell something that you bought to enjoy, but you need cash, or there's something, there's another record you want even more that costs more money, and you need to sell something to obtain it. I mean, I think that's all good and fine. Obviously we can always opine about what various sort of systems we live under, but I see no issue with it in terms of it's the reality of the situation, and that's what collectibles are. But in a lot of, here's my view too on like the collectible market, which I guess is getting a little bit away from NFTs, but this is like, I think should be obvious to everyone. Most collectibles that end up actually being worth real money were never sold as collectibles. Like when you go to a comic book store or a toy store and you see like a figure that says like the collector's edition, like you might buy it thinking it'll be worth money one day. I can guarantee you it will not be worth money one day. I mean, maybe if it's a real popular collector's item that people want, maybe you would make 10, 20, 30 bucks off of it, but we're not talking about the first Action Comics #1 or the first appearance of Spider-Man or something. If it's sold to you as a collector's item, it's probably not going to actually be worth what traditional, like legit organic items that become collector's items are worth.
Like 1991 Marvel X-Force #1 was sold as a collector's issue, and they printed 1 million copies. So.
Right. But also, when DC was printing up Action Comics, or did DC even exist then? I can't recall. But whatever, when they were printing up Action Comics with Superman, and when they were printing up the first appearance of Spider-Man.
Detective Comics, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. They also weren't printing up a collector's item either. Like, that wasn't the goal when it came out. It just became that way. Like, they printed up what they thought the marketplace would want, enough for what they thought the marketplace was. Like, if it was going to be worth a lot of money, I'm sure they would have. I mean, I know money is different, and 5 cents then is a lot different than 5 cents now, but they also probably would have charged a lot more than 5 cents.
Sure.
I mean, that's the difference here. Like, these things sort of organically became collector's items because over the years, people sort of threw them away, not realizing that they would become something worthwhile that people would search out. I mean, you could also look at like I don't know if people know this, but there are literally like decades and decades of film and television shows that are lost forever because the movie studios would obviously
reuse the
film it,
trash it.
Yeah, they would film it, air it in the movie theaters, and then when the theatrical run was over, they'd go, okay, we don't have the storage space for this shit, or we need to reuse something. When are people ever going to be able to rewatch this shit anyway? No one's going to have their own professional, like, theatrical way to play this. Like, I'm having a mental block, whatever the fuck it's called. The real...
Reel to reel,
reel to reel.
Projector,
one of the
few noble things that Ted Turner ever did was protecting all of those historic films.
So they would trash it, not ever realizing that there'd be one day technology where people can go online, or even before that, go to a store and buy their very own personal video cassette, or DVD, or Blu-ray, and now it's streaming, and watch this shit whenever they want, and that there would always be a market for any archived or any like old footage. I mean, people just didn't understand the value of some of this stuff back then. And
my dad used to put his Mickey Mantle baseball cards in the spokes back in the 50s. Of course, my dad's passed away, but in the 50s they would put their Mickey Mantles and Roger Maris baseball cards in spokes of their bicycle wheels to make them sound like motorcycles. So you can imagine, those are worth thousands of dollars.
So I guess bringing it all back to crypto and the Web3 and the commodification of everything, like those
video game skins. Right. The video game skins is what you prompted my whole thinking. In this area.
Right. Like those hobbies and those like things people are into. They weren't created for the purpose of being commodified. Yes, over the years, popularity has created markets, aftermarkets, and certain items are worth a lot of money, and get sold and bought for a lot of money, but that wasn't its purpose. And on top of that, even today and forever, those items will have purposes besides being a commodity. You can read a comic. You can... listen to your records.
Yes, there's intrinsic value. There's intrinsic value.
Exactly. So, I think that's the main difference. Like, obviously, people will always need to get something in return for their labor. Musicians need to be able to make a living so they could continue to put out records. Artists so they could put out comics. But, that's not really what we see going on here in this space.
It's one quick question, and before I say bye, I just want to thank you for what you do. I loved your podcast with Busy Phillips. It was just it went by like a flash. I did a 5-mile run because it's so fascinating, and I really appreciate what you do at Majority Report. It's opened up my eyes to a whole new world, as the song goes in Aladdin. The one question I had for you before I go was, who was the most, I know who I think you might say, but of all the celebrities, the Super Bowl commercials, which celebrity has disappointed you most in their endorsements? I think I might know who it is, but I'll hang up and I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. Mine's an HBO TV star, but I appreciate you, Matt. Thanks, and you have a good night, brother. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Great call. Great conversation. You know what? I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna actually say not because I'm a fan of his, or I thought better of him, but Jimmy Fallon, and that's because being the host of the Tonight Show is still seen as like a tremendous sort of title in that space. I mean, really, anyone. I mean, artists go on there, musicians. movie stars, and for him to promote this stuff to his audience that vastly transcends all these different industries, I think is an overall really bad thing. And the fact that, he's doing it, I think, is probably one of the more harmful examples. Let's see. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? I had a lot of people calling in at once, so I have no idea who I clicked on.
Hello?
Hello? Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hi, Matt. My name is Alex. I'm calling from New Jersey.
Hey, Alex from New Jersey. What would you like to talk about today?
I hope I'm not covering old ground here. I think NFTs are a scam, of course, but I'm calling about Bitcoin.
Sure.
I don't think they were my grandparents, but, well, yeah, my grandparents, they left Germany in the 1930s, I think, and they couldn't take too much wealth with them. I remember stories about how they hid diamonds in tubes of toothpaste.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now that I think about it, I wonder if it was really tubes of toothpaste where they were concealed, but that's another story. And they went to Argentina, as did with many other Jews. And I think about today how great it would be if people could have so easy a way to store wealth and transfer it. That's why I'm kind of rooting for Bitcoin to do well. It's for people who, well, can't trust their currency either because their company is collapsing. Their country is collapsing. Their currency is collapsing. Their island nation is, sinking into the ocean. So, on that regard, I want it to do well. Ethereum too. Everything else can go to hell. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
We can't really. We could speculate and hypothesize about how it would have been if current technology was available back then. But I can say I highly doubt that the Jews living in Nazi Germany would have had unfettered access to the internet in order to transfer their money to Bitcoin and get it out. Honestly, I mean, we're sort of looking at a situation where it's not quite analogous. I mean, I know where you're coming from here. You're trying to say, it'd be great to be able for people who have to flee. Be able to do so holding zero assets physically, so they can't have them stolen or taken away from them by whatever hostile government or group they're running away from. I see that concern. I just I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I mean, I don't know.
It's all way. Another way is, of course, is through life insurance contracts, which may or may not get honored because you're not always going to have a death certificate of an elderly parent who perished. There's other ways to transfer wealth to a third party.
I mean,
a very safe. If you're wondering about a government collapsing, a very safe thing to have, in my estimation, would be U.S. currency. I mean, United States of America is not going anywhere. You don't believe, but what about all this inflation we hear about?
I mean, I think it's all just a big scam for big corporations to be able to raise prices, and I mean, we see they're making huge profits. Profits going up. If there was an inflation problem, that would hit them too. But they're blaming inflation while still making record profits every single quarter. Something there's not adding up.
Are they selling more widgets, or are they selling more widgets at a higher price?
They're selling more. They're selling more widgets at a higher price that they're blaming on inflation, but it's not really.
So what I don't understand is, we know the Federal Reserve is buying $120 billion, it's with a B, a month in corporate bonds, right? So so that's money to corporations and a debit to the reserve. What are these corporations doing with the money? It's or banks or institutions. That is money that has come out of nowhere. And how could there not be inflation with, doesn't that, with all the borrowing, with all the money printing, doesn't that, like, it leaves me with, like, a state of, in a state of, like, what's it called? Coherent dissonance or cognitive dissonance? Shouldn't there be?
I mean, we see the cost of living is going up. Sure, I mean, but that's been the case always. I mean, I'm not quite. There's recent push where there's like some sort of mass inflation causing everything to go up in price. I mean, I don't really.
The theory. Well, since the Federal Reserve has always increased the money supply by a minimum of 2%. That, if you want to know where that number comes from, it's about the amount of increase in supply of gold every year, and that's pretty much been true for many hundreds, if not thousands of years. So why not have the dollar match it? After all, the dollar used to be linked, pegged to that.
Sure, but I mean, gold is a finite resource, and I don't think that's very, for a currency that's literally running the biggest economy in the world. I don't think we can have a finite supply of cash dollars. Otherwise, what happens when the very rich hoard it all? I mean, we already see the income disparity and how much money they already hoard. I mean, I think that's a major problem with Bitcoin. The idea that we're all going to be trading back and forth a max of 21 million Bitcoin, I mean, that seems pretty preposterous. I mean, that we're never going to produce, if like Bitcoin is to become a worldwide used form of money, a currency, we're supposed to all just trade a total, we're talking about billions and billions of people dealing in 21 million Bitcoin. I mean, it seems like what happens when those very wealthy people just hoard a shitload of Bitcoin? I mean, they already do hoard a shitload of Bitcoin.
So libertarian economists believe that the cure for high prices is high prices. Then other assets will look more attractive. There are 6 properties of a currency. You probably know what they are. I don't. I have to look it up. One is, of course, fungibility. That's a popular word nowadays. The other one is scarcity. There's going to be a lot more scarcity to Bitcoin than there would be to the U.S. dollar. So for that, if the rich people want to bid it up, go ahead. But it doesn't mean, so someone else will have to buy some, and then they can use it at that discounted, they can use it at the premium they paid for it, couldn't they?
Say that one more time.
So if the rich people all buy up Bitcoin, okay, that means you have to pay a higher price for it, right?
Sure.
Okay. Of course, you're betting that the rich people won't dump it, but once you buy it, then you can use it, ideally.
Right, but we see that people don't use it. I mean, people are holding Bitcoin like there's no actual real transactional economy happening here. Like I'm sure there are people who do use Bitcoin. I mean, we see it on the Bitcoin beach in El Salvador, and there's always people showing off that, look, I just bought a beer with this Bitcoin. But I mean, the vast majority of people who get into this are buying as an investment. They're not really like massively, there's not some sort of economy being created here in terms of like buying and selling items using your Bitcoin.
Let me put this idea in your head, and then I guess we'll wrap it up. And I appreciate your time.
Sure.
From about the 1860s in this country to about 1917, there was absolutely no inflation in this country. And in that time, somebody putting money in a bank would expect to earn 8 to 8.5% interest.
Sure.
And nowadays, you'd be blessed to get that in the stock market. Here, they're putting it in the bank. That means you could have a day laborer, an unskilled laborer, do pretty well, save all their money, and have a very comfortable retirement, even though people didn't retire for that much. But it was a comfortable lifestyle. And that all changed until the Federal Reserve Act. And then, well, I'm not a big fan of central banking, but that was, I believe, a good time in America with basically no inflation and people being able to store wealth. Well, probably white people, but that's another story.
I mean,
I would love to see the same thing with like a Bitcoin where there can be no central bank manipulation. And I would love to see the masses be able to put their funds somewhere and they don't get scammed. They don't get scammed with these ridiculous bank charges. They don't get scammed with the hidden tax of inflation, and they don't get scammed by like.
I mean, I could take issue with a number of things that you said. I mean, we don't even have to talk about just white people in terms of doing good in that era. I mean, we know what people were not living so well back then. People would basically die on the streets. We certainly were not living in a modern society in the time period you're talking about. Now, listen, I can't really attest to the interest rates you're saying. I'm not familiar with this specific thing, so I don't know if what you're.
By the way, those interest rates that I said.
Right.
Those go back about 5,000 years in human history. It goes between 8 and 9%.
Okay. I mean, we know that. I mean, again, I can't confirm exactly what that is right now. I'll look further into it, and maybe we can have this discussion another day. But why do banks continuously to pay out less interest anyway? It's to basically why do they have to? I mean. Anyway, they can.
You're lending your money to them. You're lending their money to
right.
them. They have to pay.
Sure.
They have to pay rent for the resource of borrowing.
Sure, but if they can get by paying you less, then they will, because they're all about making as much money as possible, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate the work you did, or you do, on the Majority Report, and I didn't know who you were, unfortunately, until. Michael passed away, and I thought it was really, really great of you to. Weren't you stepping in for a while?
Yes, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, that was when me and Jamie Peck were hosting on the day Michael would usually host. I mean, thank you for saying that. I mean, I think that one thing you said that I want to, because it gets more back to crypto. That I want to touch on, and then you can I'll let you go. I mean, Bitcoin is very centralized, though, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about no centralized bank. That's what you view as the end goal, an end goal for like a perfect sort of monetary system. I don't know if I agree or disagree, but Bitcoin is very centralized. You have the Bitcoin mine.
You mean concentrated or centralized?
No, it's centralized in terms of the miners. They're not just hoarding the wealth; they're basically calling the shots. They can. I mean, they're literally building the blocks, and the miners who are at the top of the heap there are extremely powerful and control a lot of Bitcoin and get to call a lot of the shots. I mean, that's very centralized, if you ask me. Like,
that's not centralized. That's concentrated. But let's not argue over the point.
All right. Thanks for the call, though. I appreciate it.
Okay. I keep up the great work.
Bye. Definitely call in again. Always a pleasure to have these conversations. I enjoy conversations with people who don't necessarily agree with me. Way more than people who I talk to who do agree with me, honestly. I'm a debater. I'll be honest. Federal Reserve Act of 1913, not my expertise. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello? Uh-oh. It says you have a poor connection. I have to hang up on you. Feel free to call back in. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt.
Hey.
Hey, sorry, I've got some boomer millennial technology issues going on here. But yeah, my name is Sean, calling from Ontario.
Hey, Sean from Ontario. What would you like to talk about today?
Just quick on the last caller. He mentioned inflation was very low. It was actually disinflationary during that period, and there were a number of depressions. So it wasn't a good time economically. And also, like the reason the Federal Reserve was created is as a lender of last resort. All of these bank runs were completely destroying the economy, and you needed someone who was able to give them money. And the idea was, well, JP Morgan isn't going to be around forever.
Right. Hey, thank you for giving me that point because that there you go.
And yeah, I just wanted to say I've been watching the Freedom Convoy Reddit a fair bit today, and they're currently thinking that there's actually a run on the banks because ATMs are running out of cash. And so there's a lot of like crypto bugs pushing on them, and it's getting pretty funny, but also really sad.
Right. Right. I mean, there was a big Bitcoin controversy going on in there in terms of even like their fundraising. Right. I mean, they're going nuts over there over all sorts of financial stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to watch, but I mean, I don't think it's having any real effects around most people. I know maybe 5 people who are pro convoy, and 4 of them are like anti-vaxxers anyway.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, great show. Been watching for a long time, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for calling in. Oh, feel free to call in anytime. All right. Let me see if that person who tried to call in before can let's see. Here they are. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Matt. This is Carl from
Hey,
Minnesota.
Carl from Minnesota. What would you like to talk about?
I mean, a few things.
Sure, let's do it.
I mean, I think early on, one of the callers, they're like, no Bitcoin conference, no liberal lefty speaking. That's not true.
Who's
I mean,
speaking
people
there?
just like to say, what's that?
Who's speaking there?
A ton of people. They have an entire list on their website of who's speaking. I mean, it's, of course, like there are a lot of, conservative leaning or, but there's plenty of progressive
Who?
lefties.
Who?
Like there's here, let me pull up the list. Farida Naborame.
Who's that?
Nick Carter.
Who's
Actually,
that?
you should read some Nick Carter stuff. She's like a human rights activist. And
oh wait, I just saw you were on the feed. Let me pull you up here.
Yeah.
Nick Carter, a general partner in Castle Island Ventures. I mean, that's not someone I would. I don't know if I would consider a venture capitalist to be a leftist. Who's this other person you said?
Farida Nabarema.
Frida?
Farida.
F-E-R.
F-A-R.
Oh, F-A-R.
IDA.
IDA. Farida, I'm not familiar with her. Let me see who she is.
I mean, it's a random point, but I'm just saying, like, people like to say, "Oh, it's all a bunch of like like alt-right people." It's not at all.
Well, I
Like,
don't think it's all. I don't think it's
2
all.
seconds.
I don't think it's all right wingers. But you have a bunch of capitalists and a bunch of political right wingers. I mean, front and center confirmed speakers. You got Jordan Peterson. You got Michael Saylor. You got Cynthia Loomis, who's literally a Republican senator from Wyoming. You got a bunch of founders and CEOs, obviously. I don't see anyone, though, who I would consider to be... I'm not even talking about like a socialist, or I'm talking about like even your basic like progressive, like someone who has progressive views on economic issues. I don't and social issues, obviously. I don't see anyone here. Like maybe this Farida Nabarima is, but she's not from the U.S. And I'm not saying that's bad, but I mean I'm talking in terms
Do
of,
they have to be from the U.S.?
well, if we're talking U.S. politics, political systems are very different elsewhere. I mean, she could be a human rights activist in, I don't know where she's from. She says she's from Freedom Land. I don't even know what that. I'm not sure what her. I don't know. I'm not sure who she is, to be quite frank. So I can't even say. But I mean, even outside the U.S., sure. I mean, a human rights activist is a broad swath of things. I don't. I mean, again, this is just if you want to even not even say it's political at all, which you can't really if you have Republican senators there who, fine. But I mean, I don't see anyone here other than a bunch of like people looking to spread political ideology or make money off of this. A very specific political ideology. Like either two things are happening here. One is that there are no progressive uses for this stuff, so no progressive wants to step up and talk on this.
There's no progressive uses for Bitcoin.
I mean, then it should be really easy to find someone here to invite to the conference. No, I mean they have literally they have a literal right wing conspiracy theorist as a guest speaker, Luke Rudkowski, or I don't even know how to say his last name, Rudkowski, of We Are Change, like literal guy who goes out there and spreads like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. He's always on InfoWars. I mean, and he's an invited speaker. He's on the guest list. I mean, we got the who else? I see. I most of these people are venture capitalists. I say, which again, that's fine. It's just then that's what it is. It's a technology conference with a bunch of VCs. But they've also happened to invite a bunch of right-wingers. Oh, here. Andrew Yang. I mean, people, I guess, will make the argument that Andrew Yang, a guy who literally left the Democratic Party, which is fine. There are people who are progressive and leftists who are not Democrats, but who left the Democratic Party to start this weird, bizarre centrist party and start some weird Web3 fund where he says that his Web3 company is going to eradicate poverty. I mean... I mean, I think even you, a Bitcoin maxi, knows that that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long shot. I think people are realizing like, hey, there's some weird technology. It was the same thing with like, machine learning and whatever, like blockchain, when companies are like, we want someone to come on and like, help us with blockchain or AI, and people are like, you don't need this. You're trying to stay hip. You're trying to like be part of the trend with something you don't need. Like that's what's so funny. People like market blockchain as this like amazing new technology. It's really not. It's super shitty technology. Right. It's good for one thing, and that's if you need it to, if you need decentralized money. That's its use.
I would argue it's not even good for that, but
maybe medical records.
I don't know about that. But no, I mean it's good to see. Oh, Max Kaiser's also on this list. Yeah, I mean that's no surprise. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's good that you call into the show because I think you provide a very unique perspective as someone who's simply a Bitcoiner and thinks all this other stuff is not so much, which I think is we'll align on those certain things where we could align on. My enemy's enemy's my friend, right? But I don't know if we'll find common ground on the Bitcoin issue. But that's why I like when you call in. But yeah, I think this Bitcoin conference, I don't think, if you want to make the argument that this is just
Matt, I was making no argument in favor of the Bitcoin conference. I was just saying, like, this guy that thinks no lefties go here or no progressive people go here.
But
it's just like, it's not true.
But it is true. I mean, I don't know if the attendees will be. Sure, maybe there's going to be attendees, but in terms of confirmed speakers, we know for a fact that it's just a bunch of CEOs, VCs, which is fine. That's a normal conference. But also then a bunch of right-wingers
go read about
literal
Frida,
Republican
and then
senators.
Maybe it'll change your mind. But like, this is times where like I listen to you and it's like, how can this thing be in front of us and we not agree on like what it looks like? When you're saying like there's no inflation, it's like,
I didn't say there's no inflation. I just don't think it's all that different from the regular, ordinary amount of inflation that we regularly see. And the idea that, I mean, if your argument is that, like, I mean, listen, to me, all of a sudden we're caring about inflation because fucking the price of hamburgers went up or some shit. I mean, I, as a 35-year-old, saw homes go from prices within the range of being affordable once you got a job back in, like, I don't know, the 80s, even the 90s, to these enormous, ridiculous prices they are at now, where you literally can't afford even on the median salary that people in the United States make, can't even afford like a home in like the middle of the country. That's the inflation I fucking care about. But no one really seemed to really make such a big deal about that, like they're making about this fake inflation where companies are just making enormous profits while blaming inflation. Like, again, like, we're not, it's not the issue that it's being claimed as. And I think people are falling for serious corporate propaganda by thinking that the reason the prices of their regular everyday goods are going up is because the companies can't help but have to charge you more because of inflation. I mean, it's bullshit. It's straight up bullshit. If that was the case, we wouldn't have billionaires making more money than ever before. We wouldn't have corporate profits through the roof because they would be obviously feeling the pain in their pockets as well. But they're not. They're not. I'll have someone on this show to talk about it in the sense of how it interacts with crypto and Bitcoin. Again, the finance world isn't my specialty, so I'm not a specialist on inflation. But from the reading I've done and from just looking at how well corporations are doing, something isn't adding up here. I mean, it's just not making sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think partly is larger institutions or larger companies that are, give, hundreds of thousands of people, work and jobs and salaries. They typically are how the government can, funnel money somewhere to keep the economy going, keep people working, keep, services going. Again, companies invariably take advantage of that. But like, so do bank. Like, are you familiar with the Cantillon effect? Like,
go ahead.
That institutions closer to the government, closer to whoever controls currency or controls monetary issuance, have more to gain because, banks are typically getting these huge influxes of, money to lend out to stimulate the economy, but they're the ones, reaping the rewards of having all this extra cash for bonds. And, there's nothing trickling down to like actual workers or everyday worker people, people that don't own businesses, people that are making a salary.
I'm not familiar, honestly, with that. Hold on. Someone in the chat says inflation rates are objectively higher. This is Dr. Paxmore, but you are correct that the price hikes we're seeing are not in response to inflation. I want to just say that again, I don't want anything, and I don't think it should come across that way. But anything that I'm saying about crypto and Bitcoin is not a defense of the banks. I mean, listen,
No, keep going.
I am a strong believer that, I'm a strong advocate for hitting them where it hurts as well. I mean, I am a victim of the 2008 financial crisis. I graduated into that. I was down there at Occupy Wall Street when that was going on, and I know that a lot of the Bitcoin early Bitcoin people sort of looked at that as like, oh, this is our our in here to obviously. They agreed with the occupiers, but had a different sort of ideology in terms of how they wanted to go about it. But yeah, none of this is a defense of the banks. What were you gonna say?
But it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like whenever you offer a criticism of Bitcoin or something similar. I don't care about NFTs and shitcoins because I'm with you on that too. But in the case of Bitcoin, it's sort of like, it sounds like you're saying, I don't really see a use for that for you. Meanwhile, plenty of other people are using it for different, as a tool for different reasons. It seems like you're saying, I don't think that's great, but not offering an alternative. And I feel like when people don't offer alternatives, you actually have to come up with a reason why something is bad or why it's worse than the default, like the whatever Fedwire system or U.S. institutional banking.
Right. I mean, I don't. I mean, there is no alternative. I mean, I can't offer up something that doesn't exist. I mean, I don't. I mean, maybe that's the problem here. I mean, it sounds like maybe that is it. I mean, Bitcoin is the one thing in your view that presents a solution, and so that's what you sort of go towards. But that doesn't mean it is the solution. That doesn't mean it answers the question and provides that alternative. That's my whole sort of argument here. Like, just because A is bad doesn't mean B is good. And I mean, your thing is that you bring up how Bitcoin is used in some countries that are unstable, and they need a way to move their money around in a way that it can't just disappear on them because there's an unstable banking system in there. And listen, that may be the case there. That's a very narrow use for it, especially when the system is built upon heavy speculation. I mean, I feel bad for those people who are using it for that, because they're beholden to the whims of people who are using it for pure monetary, pure profit. I mean, that doesn't seem like a system that solves that issue. No, I mean,
yeah, I mean, you could make that argument about the internet too. Like, the internet is used for some terrible things, but it gives people more freedom than they had without it. So
no, but the internet is not.
It seems like most people are in favor of the internet.
Right, but the internet can be used for terrible things, but its purpose isn't terrible things. Like, that's not the point.
Is Bitcoin's purpose terrible things?
I mean, Bitcoin's purpose, as we know right now, based on how the vast majority of people use it for, is as a Ponzi scheme.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't think I'm ever going to be able to convince you of what a Ponzi scheme actually is, or the fact that Bitcoin is, like, just look at the amount of people who haven't who have bought Bitcoin and never sold it. Do you know that percentage?
Right. Okay. But that doesn't mean it's not a Ponzi. Like, how does that refute what I'm saying?
A Ponzi scheme is taking money from new investors and funneling it toward early investors. That's not how Bitcoin works.
Right. But it does.
So it's not a Ponzi scheme.
I mean, you get in early, and when you sell, you are going to take in more money than you did before. Where did that money come from? Where does your profit come from?
Okay, so you don't believe in any asset. Like, you don't believe
assets are usually backed by something.
Like, okay, do you not believe in the US dollar because it's not backed by anything?
The US dollar is backed by
the US government.
The US dollar is backed by the US government. I mean, the US government ain't going nowhere. It isn't going anywhere.
Bitcoin is backed by physical energy and electricity.
I mean,
like, that's more stable than the US government, I would argue.
Well, I mean, my electricity has gone down, has gone out a lot. The U.S. government.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It can be anywhere around the world. Anywhere around the world, there's electricity.
I mean, the governments around the world easily shut off electricity all the time. That's why Bitcoin isn't the most stable in my estimation for someone who lives in an unstable country, because how are they going to access their wallet if the internet goes down or electricity's cut off and they can't access their computer?
You don't even need. People can send Bitcoin transactions over FM radio. Have you heard of this? You should look this up.
I can't speak to that, but okay. I mean, but you know who controls the airwaves, right?
I mean, anyone who wants to broadcast a signal.
No.
Okay.
That's not true. That's not true. All right. I think we should continue another day. Always like when you call in, but we should keep these short and to one topic, and then next week you call back in with something else.
Okay.
And I have a lightning episode in the works based upon our conversation, because I want to know more about the Lightning Network. So I thank you for bringing that up, and hopefully you'll enjoy that episode when it comes out. I don't think you will, but hopefully hopefully you will.
Okay. 2 quick things. Please have someone on who's pro Bitcoin, not a pro crypto NFT Web3 person. Will you please at least make an effort for me?
Have a pro. I want to have pro Bitcoin people on.
Okay.
I don't know how receptive they are going to be. What's going on? My computer just all of a sudden shutting on and off. I don't know how receptive they're going to be for my computer is in my laptop over here, not the one I'm using right now. I don't know how receptive they're going to be to coming on a show called Scam Economy. Hopefully they will be, though, because
I'm here.
Yeah. So there you go. But it'll happen. I mean, on my political show, Doomed. I don't know if you ever tuned into that. I encourage conservatives and Republicans and right wingers to call in. I've actually had debates with some very notable conservatives and Republicans on my show. I much prefer talking with someone who thinks differently than obviously someone who agrees with me. But yeah, thanks for the call, and feel free to call in whenever.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I still have faith in you, but until next time.
Take care. No, I mean, I appreciate when he calls in. I don't agree with him, and I think the idea that Bitcoin just continues to transcend into something greater. I mean, eventually, I guess it will be that higher power, that that entity that, I mean, sometimes I really don't know what to say. Hey, which name were you calling from?
G'day, Matt. It's John from Australia.
Hey,
how you doing?
Hey, John from Australia. I'm doing good. What would you like to talk about?
I just want to quickly touch on a general point that's sort of come up a bit this evening, which is the idea that blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency all exist in a political vacuum where nobody can influence it or impede it or steer it in any way.
I mean, quite frankly, the idea that it exists in a political vacuum is literally refuted by the previous few callers that each, interestingly enough, brought up the Federal Reserve. I mean, I'll be honest. For someone who was on a show, The Majority Report, that has made its bread and butter off of libertarian debates, I've personally never gotten too deep into the libertarian case against the Federal Reserve. It's not something that is particularly interesting to me. It's not something that really ever caught my eye. I know there are conspiracy theories around it. I know there are gold bug conspiratorial claims surrounding, the Treasury. Clearly, I need to do some reading into their Federal Reserve issues, because it's clearly going to come up a lot more on this show than it did on my other show. But yeah, I mean, that is so inherently political on like the right libertarian ideological bent right there. It's just simply not possible to have those, like, to even come from that perspective without coming from that frame of mind.
Right. And I think the most fascinating part for me is that, like, there isn't really doesn't seem to be any thought put into, like, what does a world look like where we transact in a way and in a currency that the whole point it exists is because we don't trust the government. Like, why, if that's what you believe, then why do you still have a government? Like, why, like, if that's what you truly believe, that there's this force in the world that is trying to screw you over and that you need to find ways to transact around them. And this is the when people say that the use case for cryptocurrency is crime, right? And they talk about money laundering, they talk about all this stuff. Like, yeah, that's true. But also, like, when you're transmitting money from, say, one country to another through cryptocurrency, and let's say you transmit like $10, $15, $20,000, what you're doing effectively is kind of skirting around regulations and skirting around laws. That's the reason why this thing exists.
Right.
Because when you're using a company like Western Union or whatever, they're vetting you, they're vetting the other party, they're transferring it in such a way that they're ensuring that the money isn't used for nefarious purposes, all this stuff, right? There's all of these laws in regards to KYC, AML, all this stuff, anti-terrorism funding, all this stuff that is intended to, one, it also to ensure that I'm not eviscerated by the communists in chat. It is a way of pushing imperialism and sanctions and all that sort of stuff. But also, like, it's intended to kind of mitigate crime, right? And to stop governments, stop people using the currency of another government to prop up their activities in some, their horrible activities, their genocides, or whatever it may be, right? Or potentially even funding their rocket program, whatever it may be. But like the idea that, like, yeah, these things are like just completely apolitical, there is no consequences. The idea that, like, yeah, a country can evade sort of their government, keep their assets safe from their government and whatever, like, that is, yes, it's true. That's the reality we live in where that happens. But like, this doesn't solve that. Right. The government controls the power. The government controls the internet. The government controls the airwaves. Like the previous caller said, you can broadcast over FM. Like, technically, that's true. You can broadcast something over the radio. But the government has these things called jamming stations, and countries like China and the like do this regularly. They will block outside transmissions from coming in by just absolutely smashing that portion of the airwaves with noise and jamming other signals. The idea that we can subvert government power with the Winklevoss's twins' magic money is frankly absurd to me. And I'll jump off and take another call.
No, I mean, it's a great, thank you. That's a great point, and you're always a pleasure when you call in. But even the idea that this isn't being mostly used by extremely wealthy people to move money around. Like, to the extent that there are people in other countries with unstable governments, like the previous caller mentioned, there was some the one speaker at the Bitcoin convention in Miami that apparently is not a right winger or a VC or CEO. They're vastly outnumbered by people using this for nefarious reasons, and not even just scams. I'm talking about literal moving money around, making sure that governments can't track their money, not because they're worried about a crackdown, but because they don't want to pay their taxes, because they don't want the transparency around their income and how much money they hoard and how much wealth they hoard and what they do with that money and who they give their money to when they do use that money. I mean, personally, I don't think, and I think Matt Leck has said this a lot, Matt Leck of Left Reckoning and the Majority Report, and I agree. I'm not for anonymity. Jeez, I don't know why I had trouble with that. When it comes to finances, it should be as transparent as possible. People should not be able to anonymously move their money around. Let's see. Was there any other callers on the line? Because there's a clip I wanted to play, a little segment here I wanted to do on this show that I thought was amazing, speaking exactly on what I was speaking on. All right, yeah, let's do it. I don't think anyone else is calling in. Let me read the few super chats that there were, and then I'll get to this clip. Oh, all right. Grim was trying to call in. I'll take Grim's call, and that'll be the last call. Hey, I'm gonna. All right, yeah, let's do it. Okay. It's Grim, right? Hello?
Matt?
Yep. Hey, it's Grim, right?
Yep.
Hey, buddy, what's up? What would you like to talk about?
I just wanted to make a quick statement to all my crypto fans out there. You could always just scrub toilets. You can pick up the fucking trash. And you should be very grateful that we don't offset all those carbon emissions for your crypto tokens by giving you the electric chair. Just think about that at night. You go to sleep. Yeah. Because we have some very exciting times ahead of us. And maybe we'll find a way to turn you into meat jerky. Just thinking. Just thinking ahead. Good night, everyone.
Take care, Greb. You know what? I'm starting to think maybe I'm too nice. I'm too nice. I think I need to be a little bit more of a dick sometimes. Not like actually hating on someone, but just like in my overall. Because I think Grim was very succinct right there. I think sometimes you just got to be like that. Oh man, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? All right, let me go to the super chats and let's see, what were they? I don't even know what day today is. All right, here we go. Slice Keeper. Oh, Slice Keeper, who is a regular critic of me in here, with a $10 super chat on the on the premiere episode. Popcorn Ready, topics for future vids. Blue Kirby, Pavia Cardano, Buzz Rug Pull, Hosky Token, Rug Pull in Action. Thank you. I will be looking into all of those. I'm actually looking into ones that you didn't even mention. There's so much shit going on in this space. It's unbelievable. You could literally do regular short 10-minute daily shows each day with the latest fucking like bullshit going on. MJM2 with a super sticker. Thank you, MJM2. $10. Thank you. Another $10 drop there. Samantha with a super chat. Love the Scam Economy podcast. Keep it up, Matt. Thank you. All right, let's whew. All right, let's play this clip because we were speaking about anonymity in this space. And all right, so I'm gonna actually set this for a YouTube clip, and I'll probably cut this for like the freebie, podcast as well. But we were just talking about anonymity in the whole crypto space, and that really dovetails into this recent happening, where this reporter at BuzzFeed News, Katie, I never know how to say her last name, so I'm sorry, Katie. But Katie Natopoulos, I hope I said it right, basically was able to find out the real names of two of the Board Ape Yacht Club's founders. Now, if you don't know, these are the two that went by Gordon Goner and Gargamel. There are various reports out there tying their chosen names and some of the designs incorporated into Board Ape Yacht Club into right-wing movements, far right-wing movements, technically straight-up fascist movements. Also, I've seen another great online piece tying it more directly to just 4chan culture, which again, and maybe make this point, isn't to say it's much different, but there is a distinction to make there. And we'll probably get into that on another episode because that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But so Katie of BuzzFeed News, Katie Natopoulos of BuzzFeed News basically found out the real names of these founders. Greg Solano, who is a 32-year-old writer and editor, and Wiley Arano, a 35-year-old from Florida. And they're two of the guys. They're not the programmers. They're not the coders who were brought onto the project. They're the ones who sort of came up with the idea. Like they're the real legit like main founders, I believe. And she published this piece, and in it, it's quite well. It's well done. It's a well done piece where she explains exactly how she found their identities. And how was that? She searched the public business records. Solano incorporated Yuga Labs, which is the company behind Board Ape Yacht Club, in Delaware, using his own address, and then other public business records attached to that also linked Solano. So both of them use their real names, real addresses, real information to basically incorporate their business. And these public records were widely available. Anyone could look them up. And that's all Katie Natopoulos of BuzzFeed did. That's journalism, ladies and gentlemen. And again, she's not going after some rando on the streets. She's not going after Joe Schmo, who's just a working dad, plumber, or construction worker, just providing for his family. And, his boss will find out and get him fired. This information could get him fired or whatever. No. This is the two founders of a multi-million-dollar company that literally just popped out of the blue in April, valued at, I believe, billions of dollars, seeking hundreds of $millions of millions in VC funding. They are the biggest player in the NFT space, which we see seeping into multi-industries, with celebrities coming on board with undisclosed promotional deals, pumping and hawking this shit. Not saying directly Board Ape Yacht Club, we don't know, but I'm talking about the industry that they are the face of as a whole. And they have no right to privacy, especially when this information is publicly available. They are the bosses. The worry that, like, oh, you know, anonymity on the internet's important because there's repercussions. I get that. For, like, part-time, like, activists who work a job and they can lose it if their boss or the corporation they work for finds out what they do. I get it for people where there are repercussions that affect their income, how they could provide for their family. I get it. These two are not that. I mean, really unbelievable. The crypto world, the NFT world blew up on this reporter. Truly just unbelievable, the reaction to it. And it all came to a head when this week, and this is incredible. What is this? This is an outlet called D3 Network, curated coverage of the most important Web3 stories, released this video interview with the CEO of Yuga Labs, again, the company that created Board Ape Yacht Club. The CEO is Nicole Muniz. She, I guess, was the corporate face of this company so that the four founders could hide behind their anonymity and continue to rake in their money without having to sort of use their own face. Because again, you're trying to turn this into a big conglomerate here. You need to have a CEO. You need to have a face of the company who can be held accountable for what the company does. So she had, so D3 Network has this interview with Nicole Muniz, CEO of Yuga Labs. And this clip, it's about a little less than 2 minutes long, is about when the Board Ape Yacht Club founders, when BuzzFeed published that piece and what their reaction to it was. And it is the most astounding thing you will ever see in your life. I could not believe what I was watching. I could not believe what I was listening to. I think the best thing for me to do is for me to play this clip right now for you all, so you can take it in. I'll be in the corner like I usually am, in the little bottom lower hand side of the screen. You'll see my reaction. I'm going to try not to interrupt it yet. We might watch it one more time after so we could pause it and discuss. But I want you guys to watch this clip in whole first. Or to listen to it if you're listening to the podcast. It is one of the most bizarre, over the top, over dramatic things I have ever heard in my life. It's too much, man. It's too much. Let's play this right now. It's incredible. It's truly incredible.
A journalist revealed the identities of two of the founders. They call it being doxxed, right? Having your identity put out there. How did the founders feel about that? How did you feel about that?
We believe in freedom of the press. We believe in journalistic integrity. When I got the phone call saying that they were going to release their identities. I asked for time so that we could tell their families, so that we could make sure that they were safe. I was told I had 30 minutes.
And folks in the community, when this happened, said, you have to be careful because there's safety issues. Can you explain why?
People who have made a lot of money in crypto, and it's attracted some nefarious characters, and it has put people in severe jeopardy. There are kidnappings, just very, very bad stuff happen. And there is honestly a misconception that the founders of this company are crypto whales. And releasing their identities and frankly only giving us 30 minutes was very, very dangerous for them and their families.
Ooh, the full interview is coming out tomorrow, it says. Truly amazing. She's literally talking like her whole demeanor is as if she's just talking about someone who is just attacked, in a major terrorist attack. Like, it sounds like she's talking where like the Board Ape yacht founders were affected by like 9/11 or something. It's so bizarre, the reaction to this. I mean, listen, these guys are insanely rich. The idea that I don't know if they're crypto whales. I don't know how you want to basically, I don't know how you want to, this interview is so crazy. I'm just trying to really take it in. I don't know how you want to define a crypto whale. But the fact of the matter is, these guys are millionaires, multimillionaires now. And they are out there working on raising massive amounts of money for a company that's valued in the billions. I don't think it's some sort of sad, dramatic, I lost my family in a fire type scenario here. I'm sorry. What a bizarre interview. Incredible. Really unbelievable. Can you imagine expecting like any major, like, can you imagine if like Apple just had a silhouette come out on screen whenever they had like a keynote or a corporate earnings announcement or whatever, and like a silhouette icon popped up on your screen and it was like, here is the founder and CEO of Apple, Tubi. And we knew nothing about this guy. They were just some anonymous figure. And entire industry where they're a major player is basically banking on us just trusting and believing this rando who we have no idea who they are in their real life. It's just absurd. It's absurd. And it actually is super important to know who these people are. Not because they should be doxxed and people should arrest them and people should... I don't care about any of that shit. I mean, people should not do that. But in the sense that, like, that's the reason a reporter is looking at publicly available documents. No. The idea is, if you are the head of this major company, or you are a founder of this major company, and you are making a shit ton of money off of people, they have a right to know, in my opinion, exactly where the money you earn is going. Now, I don't care if anonymous dipshit wants to spend money on, their family buying them a car or whatever. Who gives a shit? But Gordon Goner, he may be publicly out there saying, I just love Bored Apes. I'm a good guy. But whoever Gordon Goner is, because we don't know, well, we do now, but if we didn't know, they could be going ahead and using that money to fund some pretty terrible, nefarious shit. It's unbelievable. And also, this isn't doxing. If your name and address is attached to your company on literal publicly available documents that you submitted to the government that you knew would be on the public record, that anyone at any point could just go and access, and this one reporter figured out, oh, this is where they incorporated it, and there's the record right there. Didn't have to do anything else, and they're the first person to get there. That's not doxing. I'm sorry. You should really look into what doxing is. Incredible. All right, folks, that is the show for today. I think we got one more super chat in here. Let me read it. No, two more super chats. Kowalski with a $10 super chat. Some of these callers have made me physically violent. Has no one taken finance? Well, to be fair, I haven't. Econ, history I have. The dollar has an army, courts, 330 million citizens and nukes. Bitcoin has what? Hope? I just use government. I just say the backing of the U.S. government because that really encapsulates everything you just mentioned. But maybe we should start getting more, maybe we should start listing literally all the different facets of government. Maybe that'll make the better point. Maybe that's the way to go, Kowalski. I mean, U.S. government should be clear, but maybe if we just say the army, the courts, literally hundreds of millions of people. I mean, $5 super chat from Mr. Saxakeet. Thank you. Matt, I work in a very low SCS community. BOCES school, and the student I work with is super into crypto and NFTs with zero understanding of it. I mean, that's the fact of the matter of a lot of this shit, right? You have a lot of people who really don't get it. I mean, you're seeing a lot of people just think they just put their money in and it continues to go up, and that's how it's always gonna be. And that's really worrisome to me. That's really worrisome to me. Listen, if you understand exactly what you're doing, who am I to tell you how to spend your money? That's not what I'm trying to do here. But yeah, there's a large, really big number of people who truly are just throwing money into this, and they just don't know. They just don't know what they're doing. They just think it keeps on going up, and that's what makes it different than the stock market or other investments. Their return will keep on growing, and that's scary if you think that. I mean, you could know how to play the game here, and say, you're just doing what you would do in the stock market, or whatever. But at least then you get it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That's the show. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed. Once again, if you're not already, if you could, and you have the financial ability to do so, patreon.com/MattBinder to support this show, help it grow. Slicekeeper says, please listen to crypto people on Twitter in Spaces. Engage, please. I mean, I'll try. Spaces is hard for me, though. I can't jump in when those spaces are running. That's why I do a show at 9 p.m. At night. And here I am, almost midnight my time. I wish I had the time to jump in those spaces when those spaces are on. Yep. Be sure, if you haven't already, even if you listen to the live stream, please go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, leave a review if you can. It's a big help. It really is. The numbers for this show are really good. And I reckon people are discovering it that way, too. Even if you don't subscribe on Apple Podcasts, even if you don't subscribe to it on Spotify, go there, leave a review if you can. Even if you're a critic of me, even if you're a pro crypto person, you should look at the podcast and live stream market, and it's all just pro crypto stuff. And that's not necessarily healthy if you believe that this is whatever you believe it is. And you should see that there's, I'm taking calls from anybody and having discussions. So I think, I earn a good rating from you guys too, even if you disagree, because I'm giving you guys a voice to call in and disagree with me and engage with an anti-crypto person. All right. Have a great night. I appreciate the, Slicekeeper. I appreciate the, your interaction too. Have a grim with the clapping with the crypto in the chat. I'm tired. Have a great night, everyone, and I will see you all next time on the Scam Economy. ScamEconomy.com.